Hello, my name is Tim Molony, and I'm a candidate for mayor of the city of Norwood. You know, most people say that I'm like an army brat in Norwood. I've lived in 6 different homes in all 4 wards. I was born and raised here, son of a Norwood fireman. My mother still lives on Floral Avenue. I went to Norwood schools, went to St. Xavier High School, Xavier University, where I got an accounting degree and an MBA of finance, and I'm the oldest of 5. I've been married to my wife, April, for almost 20 years now, and I have 4 daughters, 4 grandkids. With me today is Hamilton County Auditor Dusty Rhodes. Dusty, thank you for coming.
Hi, Tim. When's the first time we did this?
The first time was in 1997, so I was lucky enough to win and started my treasurer's position in 98.
You reelected. You've never lost a penny as treasurer.
That's right.
We have a finding for recovery that we're hit with if we lose any money, and you never had one, and that is pretty interesting and pretty great. In fact, you are the fella that made the community go all these years behind the scenes, because you paid the firemen, you paid the policemen, you paid the road people, you paid the staff, and you kept the wheels turning.
Well, it's an interesting position, the difference between the auditor and the treasurer. You know, we're really focused on cash collection on our side of the business. Earnings tax is what drives the city. We've set records 3 years in a row for the most earnings tax collected. This year, it's going to be awful close to whether we're going to be 4 years in a row or not. So we take a lot of pride in doing our job, and really, you know, people have elected me in the past to be treasurer, and we've kind of kept our nose down. They wanted me to be treasurer, and I've tried to be the best treasurer we can.
Well, that's a great background for serving as mayor, because you know all the nuts and bolts, and nobody has qualifications that can match you, to my way of thinking. It's a tough job, and it's been tough in this community because of things that have happened, and businesses have left, businesses have come in, and you've had some financial problems that you've here to steer the ship through.
Well, we're still right in the middle of those, actually. You know, with the financial recovery plan that the state of Ohio and us have been working on, we're a couple of years into that. We've got several more years to go before we're kind of free and clear. And I think it does take a financial professional to lead the charge. And that's really important these days with what we're going through right now.
You've worked well with the other officials. I'm impressed with that, Tim. Both sides of the aisle. You've gone straight ahead for the community. And that's important, I think, because there's so much partisan nonsense going on these days. But you've served the community, and you've worked with both sides of the aisle.
Absolutely.
And you've helped.
Well, I think regardless of your national politics, when you're talking about local politics, you're really focused on moving forward and trying to get the best bang for your buck, and making sure that even though you might not agree with the next step, that you work hard at the next step and make sure we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and you provide the information that people can act on as they go along, and that's important. Some communities, they're at loggerheads, quite frankly, and fighting all the time for no purpose. I can never understand that. And you've been straight ahead and true, and that's why I think you've been elected.
Well, that's in the treasurer's position. That's what we've tried to do. But really, in the mayor's job, it's even more important. You're the face of the city, not only to the city employees and the union folks, the business community, and you have to work close with city council. And every 2 years, our city council makes some changes, and there's going to be changes this time. And so we have to find a way of working together
Yeah.
and making sure we make good decisions in the
That's
future.
the important thing.
Right.
Respect the voters, respect the citizens, and when the election is over, you go to work for the community. And that's what I've seen you do all the time. And
thank you.
It's impressive. It really is. And
Thank you.
I think Norwood would be in great shape with you as the mayor for that reason.
Well, we've certainly got our issues out there.
Yeah.
You know, whether it is infrastructure, you know, roads issues, or our water system issues, it's going to take a lot of work. You know, I'm a little more bullish than some of my opponents in that, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, the city owed an awful lot of debt.
Right.
And whether it was to the pension systems or whether it was to several large vendors, we even missed payroll a couple of times.
Wow.
And paid that a couple of days later. And so now all that debt is paid off. And so the conversation, at least on council floor, has shifted a little bit to not will we ever do streets, but which streets are first.
Right.
And that's a big leap. And we have all that in front of us. You know, it's more about how we're going to divide up the pie, and making sure we always have a little bit of the pie left over.
Right.
So all that is ahead of us. And so the reason we can do that again is we're almost debt free, but that paying off all that debt did come at a cost, and that's no road repair to speak of, no investment in parks. And now we're ready to shift and start spending a little bit of that money.
You've got a lot on your plate, and it's a big job. And as I say, being in the trenches, as you were, you know where the bodies are buried, so to speak,
Right.
and you know where the pitfalls are, and you can avoid them. And working with the councils, many councils over the years, you know how to push their buttons and let you push.
Right.
Well,
I've tried, you know, especially now, to develop a relationship with all the candidates, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. I've spent months talking to folks in county government, state government, talking to folks in the business community, people that run nonprofits. I've sat with people on the school board. And what I'm trying to do is understand their perspective on what the city does well now and what we can do better in the future, knowing that every problem's not going to be solved January 1st or January 2nd, but already start developing the relationships that there's personal respect back and forth, and quite frankly, to be educated. And it's been quite an education for me these many months to learn about other folks' perspective. And you know, sometimes the city takes a leadership position. Sometimes, for instance, the schools, they take a leadership position. They want the city to move to the side. So again, it works a lot of different ways, and it starts just with personal respect and making sure we all want the same thing, and that's a better community.
What are you hearing from the folks going door to door? And I want to mention that that's important, and I miss that because we always did in Delhi years ago when I was a trustee. More people at home back then than now, but I think going door to door and talking to people is the best way to present yourself.
It's a couple of things, you know. It's a mixed bag these days. You know, folks. Some folks they work all day. They have family commitments, and then you come in the early evening or on Saturday and knock on the door. And some folks want to talk to you, some not. It depends, really. We've been all over the city in many different precincts, and sometimes 10-11% of the people answer the door, and sometimes we found that 30 or 40% of the people answer the door. They talk about you know, naturally some of our infrastructure issues. It's kind of different in different parts of the city. They talk about not having a very responsive administration right now. When they ask a question or when they call City Hall, they're not sure who to talk to. Simple things like our website not being up to date or very tough to navigate are in people's minds. And so those are the kinds of things that are important to people. And again, reaching out to everybody gives you a very good, well-rounded perspective.
You're picking up on that, and that's great because you're seeing one-on-one, and I found that that's the best way to campaign. You can spend all sorts of money, and it doesn't matter if the people like you and if they think that you're considering their needs and honestly interested in them. And that's something else I've liked about you, Tim, all the years. You seem to be really interested in the folks that you serve, and you've got a love for this community that other people have matched, but it's 100%, and that's important. You've got to care. And you do, and that's why I'm real happy to be with you, and I wish you all the best. I mean, it's going to be a tough job, and we stand ready to be of help in any way. One of the things I'd like to do is get that local government fund back.
Absolutely.
It's cost Norwood a chunk of money.
Well, in the last several years, it was $750,000, $850,000. That's a big number when you're talking about a general fund budget.
Right.
At $23-24 million, we can do an awful lot with that.
Yeah.
And
and that was promised by the state, and they took it away.
It was.
I don't know.
Well, you wonder what's next, really.
Yeah, right.
You really do, and there are things out there that have been around for a number of years, but you don't really know where state government's going.
Yeah.
And so we as a city have to be prepared for everything.
You've got a good relationship with the state representative, Bridget Kelly, and some of the other state officials, and that counts. Being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, we need this or we need that. And I think that's another attribute that people may not know about you. You've built relationships outside of the community with people that can help.
Well, I've tried to, again, work on all of this relationship building. And I've said to some of the business owners and the business leaders in the community that, starting next year, I said, I'm going to come and talk to you. And they get a smile on their face. And I said, I'm going to try to get in your pocket. There's no doubt about it. But I really need your brain power. Yeah. And I need your staff's brain power. And that's very, very important to us. Letting other people in on the decision-making process. Of course, we all know, too many cooks in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. But really taking it serious to get the community involved in the decision-making process is very high on the list, and really something I've talked about for almost a year now. Yeah,
no man is an island. That's something I've found. I don't have all the answers in my office, and the door is open. Right. Employees can come in and argue with me and everything, and I never take it personally.
Well, there's an awful lot of smart people that live and work in Norwood, and that's really an untapped resource.
Right.
And it's something that we've grown away from, and it's time to get back and really get the community involved and
keep
behind
the door
me.
open and answer your phone and talk to the people, because you never can tell when you pick up the phone a great idea
Absolutely.
might be coming at you.
Absolutely. So we'll finish on having a great idea. I personally think a great idea would be a vote for Tim Molony for mayor, November 5th.
Sure.
Thank you for listening, and thank you, Dusty.
Thanks, Tim.